people without filter. This is an environment where you could ask whatever question you want to ask. Um, I wish there was more than me, but hopefully that'll change later. Um, and I just am going to explain to be transparent that we had some different ideas about what was going to happen. I think we had a moderator. I think we had a translator. I think we were supposed to be inside where there were bathrooms and everything. And as of today, we are outside, unable to go inside, no key, no response. People who were supposed to and agreed to be part of this won't return phone calls. And some of the staff that have set up these places, they were threatened with losing their jobs, so they're not here. And that's kind of the reason we're on the sidewalk. But I want to encourage everyone, your vote is your power. And be sure you ask the questions and get the answers. There is no format to this. There's no prearranged anything. That's what a town hall is. And people can ask. I think it's so important. People ask your questions, make your points, be heard, kick the tires. Like if I said something, you don't agree with it, you kick my tires. And listen, I'll do the best I can to explain myself. Not everybody's going to agree with what I say, but at least you heard what I said. And I think that's one of the most important things in this process. No one can govern this city without the support of the people. You have to reach out and bring all the people together best you can. And I think even if people don't agree with the candidate that wins, they feel like they should give the candidate who won a chance because they went out into the public and they explained themselves. These type of things I think are so important. So with that, I'd like to thank the Latinos Radio. I am sorry that they've been maligned. I don't know why. I just tell you personally, I know exactly who Latinos Radio is. One, there was a point where we received a lot of Mexican immigrants, and they were working day and night, and it was really hard, and they had a lot of pressures. And Latinos Radio made themselves available to let them know the news and to cater to them and to be sympathetic and to highlight what was going on in their community. And Latinos Radio has 164,000 followers. I think I got that number right? 164,000. Every time I do something, I tag Al Dia, Telemundo, Univision, I do Impacto Al Dia, I do El Sol, and I do Latinos. You can't exclude Latinos. There's the voice of the community. And there are other platforms, but they're not here because they're scared. They were supposed to be here. I don't know what happened to them, but I'm glad Latinos is here because you got to bring the information to the people. It doesn't mean the people are going to support me. No such thing. They're going to hear my answers, and they might say, you know what, I don't even like that guy. I'm not going to vote for him. That's what happens when you get in front of people. You don't know what the question is. You answer it best you can, and that's that. So I will ask in this format, we have a couple of floating wireless microphones. Could I have a volunteer to walk around and yes, would you please? So why don't we start with this? Why don't we have someone ask a question? And if there isn't a question, I will answer a question I think you have, but I'd rather just answer your question. But if you don't make one up, I'll just answer whatever. But I certainly want to provide that opportunity.
I just want y'all to know that I am a Democrat.
Hello.
I just want all of you to know that I'm a Democrat. Okay, just letting you know. Questions?
If anyone has a question, there's Stan. I know who he is.
Stan Hurley.
Oh God, I have a lot of questions. I'll ask this. What do you think you could do to approach concerns by Democrats that you're aligned with like the crazy Republicans in Washington.
Okay, so stand up and just start with this. This is a city of 1.6 million people, and we have all kinds of views. We have views that are kind of in the middle. We have views on the right end and on the left end, and a whole bunch of people. I am running to be mayor of everybody, and everybody is welcome to have their views and have it respected. What I'm doing has to do with the city, and I very much focus on the city. My perspective is this: the mayor cannot, the president cannot come here and fix a pothole. Only the mayor can do that. There are things the president does, the governor does, the senator does, but a lot of what happens in this city, only the mayor can deal with, and that's where I'm focused. In terms of how people can feel about me, I'll say this: that I respect everybody's views, and in my part, in order to be the mayor of this city, you need a very broad coalition of support, very diverse groups of people. And so I am proud to have Republican support, Democrat support, independent support, third party support. I think if I were on either end of the spectrum, I could not win this position. Maybe if I were on the left end of the spectrum, but myself being a Republican, I could not win on the right end of the spectrum. And whatever I think personally, because people ask me, like, if you become a mayor of the city as a Republican, what will that mean? I said, I don't think it means anything, because any elected official who's a Democrat, they're not going to stop working with me because I'm a Republican. This city is 7-1 Democrat. This is a big Democrat city, and I'm the mayor of the city. What it does open up, however, is my opportunity to work with Republicans, to represent the Democrats and everybody else in our city, and then to work with some of the Republicans in ways that I think are fundamental to the issues that I look at: crime, jobs, affordable housing, schools, education, those type of things. And my interest in improving the technology, the arts and culture of our city, and to deal with our position in the global economy. I think the reason you're all here, and believe me, we've got some very different views here, very different, is because you're comfortable with me within the role that I offer. And I try to be pretty honest with people in terms of where my positions are. And I think that's why people are generally comfortable with me, because I let them know. Sometimes they don't like my answer, but they say, okay, he was honest with me. And it gives people a level of comfort. I think transparency is very important. And I'm going to say, Stan, did that answer your question, or am I ducking? Thumbs up thumbs up from Stan. And then we have over here, we have James.
Hi, Jane.
James is a Navy veteran and a former candidate.
Thank you very much, David. And I've known you, I've seen your politics around the city for a while. I know you've been a lone survivor amongst the Democrats that you sit on city council. You are a person of great national person, which is why so many people from around the globe want to come to Philadelphia, just because they know that it is a hub to make things happen. My question is, what is the contrast between you and your opponent, Cheryl Parker?
Okay, the question is, what is the contrast between myself and my opponent, Cheryl Parker, regarding, I think, international and global? Okay, so she's not here, so that's unfortunate, right? But I will say, I think what I can say. First of all, about myself. When I got elected, it was important for me to talk to the council president about starting a committee that dealt with global opportunities and the creative, innovative economy. And they're very tied in together. And I believe that within the four corners of Philadelphia, there are not enough opportunities. There is not enough basis to find employment for people. There is not enough tax dollars. We need to increase our city's revenues without increasing property tax. How would we do that? Well, we would have to find other places to tax, a nexus in how people make money through our city, right? And I believe there's great untapped potential. But the other thing is, if we don't bring in more opportunity from expanding innovation, ideas, arts and culture, things like that to Philadelphia from overseas, then we will not have the jobs and opportunities for the people that we want. One, we have a lot of people from other countries in our city, and I think they are very much underperforming their potential because we as a city do not appreciate who they are. Look at this neighborhood. This neighborhood should be an economic engine. This neighborhood is rich in culture, in arts, in cuisine, and best of all, the people. And the people are undervalued. And I always say it this way: look, if I lived on the main line, I could go eat Mexican food, or I could go eat the different types of cuisines out in the suburbs, and it's wonderful. But there's no comparison to being here. This is real. This is authentic. The smells, the flavors, the people, and that's the main thing. It's like the real experience here. We have to get rid of the crime. We have to improve education for the children. We have to make sure this place is clean and that people are not stuck. The only way they can advance themselves is through dealing drugs. And we cannot surround them with misery. They grow up in misery. You think they're going to succeed. How do we allow that? These are failed city policies. We should not be doing this in our city. And so I think that if we expand our opportunities, I was talking about like what banks are here, what language is here. And so people in this community um, have such great ability. I don't know if they realize it. I'm going to give a quick example. K-pop. I'm Korean. K-pop. K-pop is a phenomenon in Korea, right? One band made like $1 billion. Yes, BTS. But you know that music did not originate in Korea. But some clever person said, you know what? That is fantastic music. We're going to imitate it. We're going to cultivate it. We're going to put a little Korean spin on it. And we're going to take it into other countries. And they did. And they made a fortune at it. And there are countries that think Korea invented this kind of music. It didn't. They own it to a degree now. They've adopted it to themselves. But if we don't appreciate our own people, artistic abilities, their creativity, what they got to say. See, that music is really about what you got to say in a very unique way that connects with people. And I would say that here in our city, we have such tremendous talent, but we don't have a platform for them. And that's why I've really pushed the creative arts economy. And people, um, look, they got to feel good about themselves. They have to feel like in our city, they could be the human being they want to be. Otherwise, go to New York, go to LA, go to Knoxville, or go to Miami, or right. So this place here, we have to invest in a way that people, they appreciate the investment. It really benefits them and is very helpful to them. So I have gone overseas at my own expense. I have met with some of the top corporate leaders in the world. And that's not a overstatement. I've met with the chairman of Korean Airlines, the vice chairman of Hyundai Motor Group, the head of Hyundai Rotem train manufacturer that we used to have here, the IP general counsel of Samsung Electronics, with a company called Lotte that builds mega buildings around the world and indoor amusement parks, and others. I met with the biggest representative K-pop at the time, and that was before K-pop really kind of entered the U.S., about investing in Philadelphia, bringing jobs to our city, building, state-of-the-art buildings. I had 2 meetings with the building trades where I brought 22 different countries about investing and constructing and building and bringing jobs to our city. We never got to the third meeting, which was the wrap-up meeting. Politics got in the way, but they're very excited about that. You know, that's what I could say that I did, but I didn't get support from our city. You know, I paid for those tickets. I bought my own. The city wouldn't give me Liberty Bells to give to these people. So I go bought my own, $110. And because the city didn't give me Liberty Bells, I didn't put it was from the mayor. I said it's from Councilman David O. Anyway, because I had to buy them and lug them around with me. But my point is, you know that I'm not an important person. I'm just a councilman from Philadelphia. But to get an opportunity to talk to major investors of all sorts, I'm just naming some familiar names. There's other names as well. And people are so receptive. And they said, we never heard of Philadelphia. Sorry to say that, right? Never heard of Philadelphia. Where is it? Oh, it's in Pennsylvania. Where's Pennsylvania? Where Wharton is. Oh, Wharton. We heard of Wharton, right? So it's funny. Rocky, you know, oh, Rocky, Philadelphia, Rocky. So I have found that there are great opportunities, but why isn't our city on this? Why isn't our city on this? It is because our city leaders don't value international opportunity. It sounds like a very foreign thing. I'm also going to say this, and I know Manny's up saying, where is my chance to ask a question? So I'm going to say this. Look at our current finances. It's bad. Article in about how much revenue we've lost with people leaving. They're not paying a real estate tax. They're not paying the use and occupancy. People are not coming back to work. It's over $1 billion. We cannot keep raising people's property taxes. You have to find an alternative, but that alternative has to include an expansion, revenues through opportunities and growth. So this is what I've done. And I would just say, in all honesty, and I will encourage Parker to come and speak for herself, that's not her forte. International is not her forte. Our immigrant communities is not something she's really done. I think, what's that? Oh, yeah, not her forte, right? I would say that you could ask almost every group, immigrant communities, I have been there. And what I'm saying is this: it's so simple. Just show such a thing. They just want to see your face. They just want to know you care. They just want you to show up as a official of this city. Is respect, is acknowledgement, and so much of it. Just like in our crime-ridden neighborhoods, we have Jamal here, Johnson, stop killing us. Emmanuel from different kind of Democrats. When you show up in these communities, what you're saying is we care. We care. And caring is so much. It's a very important part of our city that is missing for our kids in schools, or kids who are getting shot, or our seniors who are alone. Or you know, we have to show up. Manny, I'm sorry, it took too long. Your question? Oh, Asteria. No? Okay.
Hola. Asteria Rivas, community activist for 25 years. I know some of you may not know me here. I've been around for quite some time, especially when they started talking about the claimed safe injection site. And originally, when I was listening to it, what was important to me is who was involved. Not so much as just directors of allowing them to use drugs, but the clergy involved for prayer, and also open doors so that they have the option of going to rehabilitation centers here in Philadelphia or outside of Philadelphia. It was a combination, and it was also important to involve families, because without families, majority of the time, it just doesn't work. When somebody is in rehab and they don't hear the voice of a loved one or a friend, even if it's once a month, it kind of fails. But what happened is, next you know, they always started talking about injecting drugs, injecting drugs. You no longer heard about the clergy getting involved for prayers. You no longer heard about families involved. You just didn't hear about anything else but just using drugs. So it's no longer a safe injection site. So my understanding is you are not for the claimed safe injection site. But also we've had an issue with some of these rehabilitation centers in the way that they distribute these drugs, especially when they shouldn't. And a lot of these old directors that shouldn't be there are still there. So my concern and the concern of many is these facilities, because a lot of them need replacement. A lot of staff members need to be replaced. A lot of directors need to be replaced. We need to start doing things right, legit, and without corruption. So I'd like your view on that.
Okay, thank you very much. I think everybody heard the question. I'm going to put it like this, and I'm sorry for this explanation, but I think it's the best way I could convey what I think. There is a point where people are so used to getting something from our city government that performance no longer is a measurement. Politics is the measurement. And I'll give an example. There's a pothole. Somebody helps a politician win office. And the reward is, we're going to give you money, $100 for filling this pothole. So the pothole is the reason to give money. Now, if the person fixes the pothole and it's good for 5 years, they got $100 in 5 years. But if they don't fix it so good, they get $100 every year, each year that's $500. Now they keep doing this 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and now they want more money. But how do we pay them more money? Well, if that one pothole is 3 potholes, you got $300 every year for 5 years. If the 3 potholes become 8 potholes, you got $800 a year every year for as many years as you have that contract, right? If you have that contract and you're not a scrupulous person and there's no transparency, there's no accountability, the problem is that I see there comes a point in time you don't even bother filling a pothole. You just collect the money because it was never about the pothole. It was about your work to get someone elected, stay in power, and the tax dollars is the way of rewarding you. Who cares about the pothole? And what I see that you're saying is not just potholes. It's not just rehabilitation centers. It's not just all these different things. We see, when I say we, you see so many examples where you read about money that this city spends and there's no accountability. Hundreds of millions of dollars are supposed to do something and they don't seem to do anything. Nobody on the street can even find it. Where is the transparency in our schools? Because without transparency, without accountability, there is no responsiveness. And people got so comfortable that with all the failing schools, all the potholes all around us, no one is held accountable. And what people want is they want reforms. They want measurements. They want to see that the dollars they spend mean something and that you're just not layering dollars upon dollars upon dollars that don't do any good because of political collusion, political corruption. So yes, I think one of the reasons that I am a viable candidate is I'm completely disconnected with the infrastructure of the political machine. If I am elected, people believe, and I say I will clean this up. And I think periodically, you got to clean this up. It doesn't happen every year or every 20 years, every third, but periodically the people want someone to come in, strip away the fat, get rid of the lack of accountability, get rid of the people who are so arrogant that they are never going to be held accountable, that they will do all these things right in front of your face. And that's when it's gone too far, because they won't respond to you, the citizen, the public, and the public interest. Drug dealing is one of the biggest money makers in this city. And the fact that we have so many drug addicted people, there's so many reimbursements, there's such issues. But as you said, all these people coming in here because this is the worst place where they're tempted to be here, to do anything to kill themselves and ruin their lives. They have left their homes where there's money for them, detox, behavioral, and mental health and family and people who know them, to keep an eye on them and help them. They're not getting that here in our city. What we're getting are people who are making money off of their misery. And we need to clean that out, get rid of those folks, and that's what I will do. Thank you.
Yeah. How you doing? Okay, we've got about 300 homicides in the city right now. Over 1,200 people have been shot this year. Your chance of winning, according to most normal people, is 0 to none. Based on the fact that the Republicans, as it's been said, don't care much for you. The Democrats obviously want to win. How are you going to help us with this gun violence if you're trying to deal with people that are doing what they're doing now and intend to do it later, and yet you want to come and do something different? How's that going to work?
Okay, I might not fully understand your question, but I'm going to answer it, and you could tell me where I'm wrong or right. So what he's saying is, I think the first part is, most people will say, David O, you're a Republican in a 7-1 city, and you don't have a chance of winning. That's one thing. And I think what that means is, if you can't win, how can you make a difference? So I'll say this. That whole
gun violence.
On gun
Gun
violence.
violence.
What different? If you can't win, what can you do about gun violence,
Yes.
right? So what I'll say is this: the city being 7 Democrats to 1 Republican is the registration of the city. This is a Democratic town for sure. But, and I'll wait for the fire engine to pass by. All right. All right. So that's the registration of the city. But I know, and anyone who follows politics knows, that the vote on the election is not 7 to 1. There are not 7 Democrats coming out to vote versus 1 Republican. So the total number of Democrats in our city is like 800,000, and the total number of Democrats coming out to vote in this general election is roughly 250,000. So it's 250,000. The number of Republicans who will come out in this race is different from the last 20 years of races, because for the last 20 years, we have not had an electable Republican. I'll just say that plainly. You could look at this audience, right? What I mean is this. If you have a Republican that nobody ever heard of, that never held public office, that doesn't have any money, that no Democrats support, that person cannot possibly win in this city. You'd have to have a Republican that carries Democrat votes every time they run, and I do. Yeah. I do. So what happens is this: the race is really much closer than what people say. Now, when they say there's no way this guy can win, it's okay, because most of the people they're talking to don't vote anyway. But that doesn't mean they shouldn't be served. They should be served. They don't vote, but doesn't mean you shouldn't serve them and help them and all that stuff, but they just don't vote. So who votes? You have people who are much more engaged and they vote. So this is the process right now. How many people in our city believe that this city is going in a horribly wrong direction? And that's a lot, right? Because we have a lot of Democrats here. And in this neighborhood, you go far out, there's a lot of Democrats, and they completely support me. The reason is not because they love Republicans. They just want a change. They want someone they believe is really going to make a change. On your issue about gun violence and murder and all that, what I would say is this: we have had a continuous slew of politicians, elected officials, and in their time, they have an idea about being very accepting of criminal behavior, and so much so that if you're trying to enforce the law, which is fundamentally what I would do, enforce the law, that is in their opinion a bad policy. And listen, it's okay. It's a democracy. They have had their time of doing that, not arresting drug dealers, not enforcing retail theft, not dealing with prostitution, allowing people to violate the traffic laws. not arresting people with illegal weapons. We've had that. And what we've ended up with is a fear of crime. And what we see, and this is a fact, we have an explosion of gun ownership in this city because people no longer have confidence in calling 911 and getting the police out. It is the exact opposite of what we want. We have people who hate guns, buying guns. We have people who don't want to have a gun in the house, having guns in the house. And one thing I will say is this: for every legal gun, there is an illegal gun, because people who are not allowed to have guns need to protect their life too. So it will help us to, one, communicate to people that we have a different process, because I think it's unfair when you suddenly spring on people that what you were allowed to do all 4 years of last year is suddenly different. You're going to let them know you cannot do this, and here's the consequence. But then you're going to have to do something, and I will do it in a very clear way. I'm going to enforce the laws. Now, enforcing the laws doesn't mean you're putting people away for 100 years. You enforce the law. Your bad conduct, your illegal behavior, that will not be overlooked. The mayor is going to have the police enforce the law, let people know that's a violation, and handle it legally. And I want to say that's very important. The police should never be instructed to violate people's constitutional or civil rights. That is how people become suspect of the police. And let me stop this from ringing. And that is counterproductive to public safety. I believe we will recruit police, good police, when we lay out that, one, we want you to be the hero you want to be. We want you to be that person that people come to ask for little things that children can walk up to. You know, we don't want people to feel like they're going to be violated or abused or hurt or harmed. And we need to provide them the equipment that they need to have that level of good service, intelligent service to the people. And when that happens, they will have a high level of morale. Here's a Marine. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. The higher your morale, the better your performance. The higher your morale, the higher you hold yourself. The more you hold yourself to be accountable to the public. And so when our police feel that they are that person of high training, high morale, high courteousness, who are willing to sacrifice their life and their health for others, we will have a great police force. And so I will point out this: I am not for stop and frisk as a affirmative policing technique. I'm not for that. And I'm going to explain why that is, because I think that's important when you talk about how are you going to deal with homicides and crime. You're already talking about more policing. Yes, I am, but not alienating police, not police that are abusive or fearful to the community. The community must embrace the police. And so what I would do is this, they are going to follow the law. If someone is identified as being involved, reasonable, articulable suspicion of criminality, plus they are armed and dangerous, you can pat them down. There's a process. But you cannot send police out to go to a neighborhood and start looking at people and eyeballing and feel, what's my reason I can pat them down? That is a violation. And we don't need to do that. 1,300 police officers, we're short. We need to hire them. And then they have to be deployed in a visible way. What I'm not doing, I'm not putting in neighborhoods that don't want them. There are too many neighborhoods that want visible community policing, and we will put them there first. For a neighborhood that is fearful that if we put police there, it'll be worse for them, we don't have to do that, because we can show them in these other neighborhoods that the police presence has provided those communities with a better quality of life. Once the police are there, it is a halt to murder. And we can follow the cars that are hunting out other juveniles with the intention of shooting them. We can ensure that people are safe at the public transportation system, going to school, in the school, police, transit police, community policing, police in the school. But that just is a temporary cessation of murder and fear. Right away, we go into those communities and we clean and green. We have to put in those places the visible things people need. And let me try to explain that. I am not primarily looking at how expensive your table is. That is where I differ with my colleagues. This table is $2,000. My table is $200. Okay. It is so difficult and expensive to make sure that my table is $2,000 like your table. Most people, what they're thinking of is what is on the table. My $2,000 table comes with dinner, with a violin, with a computer, with a gaming console, with a future. $2,000 table's got nothing on it. Got a broken pencil. Hey, how you doing? Doing all good, all good. Thank you. All right, God bless you. So what I'm going to do is this. It'll cost so much less, and it'll be so much more immediate, and it'll be so much more impactful if we put dinner on the table, if we put computers on the table, if we put opportunity on the table, that people, they will consume that first. But the first thing it shows them in a much more affordable and meaningful way is we have a love for you. We see you. We thinking of you. We know that you have suffered. We know that you're disrespected. We are going to change that today. And that, I think, is the more permanent. Now you have to go into, yes, the schools and the facilities and all that. But people fundamentally, they want to be somebody. And that's where I believe we can really impact this violence and this crime. We have a lot of reforms to do. And I have talked about a lot of different reforms. Look, kids cannot look at their school and they can't use the bathroom, and there's no library, and they get bullied inside and outside the school, and there's the curriculum is lacking. And then look and see another school where they have orchestra, swimming pool, all that stuff. There is a sense of just really just being discarded. And I believe that along with every other thing they see in their life and around their communities is the reason we're dealing with a lot of that hatefulness and anger. And especially when we're taking kids out of homes, removing them from their loved ones against their will and without reason, we're going to get something back. And so for me, this is a close race. I'm just saying. And it's getting closer every day, because what happens is people want a change. They want an immediate end to this violence, but they don't want people stepped on. They don't want people's rights abused. They don't want people harmed. They want to stop the violence, but they want a better city for people. Now, that is a hard thing to do, but it can be done. For me, one is I can win. The reason I can win is I'm here talking to you and answering your questions and telling you truthfully what I think. Not everybody's going to agree with me. Maybe some of the people here are going to agree with me more than people over there. But I'm as plain with them as I am with you. When they go into that voting booth, they're going to remember who is talking with me, who's accounting to me, because that is the first step in respect and in working together and being a public servant. And I think servant is the critical issue. Who is going to serve me? I put on my waiter's hat, and it says, Chief Waiter, Mayor of Philadelphia. You have to go with that opinion. Look, the other thing I'll say is this. I don't think this is an easy job. And I don't think this is a job that entails... And I don't think this is a job that entails a lot of fun. I don't imagine a lot of vacation either. I think this is a really hard job where a lot of people are going to be super unhappy no matter what you do. You're going to have to take this city through a process. That's why the transparency is important. Before you take someone through this grinding process of rebirthing this city, you better come up front with them and say, listen, everybody, we're going to go through a thing, and I hope you will hear me. And if you elect me, I will begin that hard process. But here's where our hope is. So I believe I will win. I believe this is the right path to take. And I believe that you have to lay out a clear path to stop the violence and then bring in what will actually lift people up, because they have a better sense of who they're going to be, who their children are going to be, and that hopefulness that comes from transforming their lives. Okay. Another question? Okay, I got a microphone there, and then you'll be next. And then, okay. All right.
Testing. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Sorry, look. My name is Nicole. I'm a person at 1814, DKOD. I'm born and raised Kensington. I went to all the local schools, Moffitt, high school, and so on. So I think that it's easy for us to sit here and say what we're going to do about gun violence and saying how policing will be the answer to it. But I think that it's deeper than that. I think we need to address the resources, the root of the problem, or to say. I think it's easy for us to say the drug dealers are adding to the opioid crisis. We're actually had Rite Aid that's about to be in a lawsuit due to going bankrupt due to the crisis. So we have people, bigger players involved that is actually not showing the city in the best light. I think my question more so is, talked about international resources. I think that's great. What are we going to do on a local level as far as the resources? Because myself, I have an investment property where I'm looking to open an art gallery to help change the narrative in that area. But there lacks a lot of resources, and it's just something that one person can't do by themselves. So I would like to know what you plan to do to help address the local issues, and what are the top three?
Okay, let me start broadly. One, you have to stop the violence, because until you stop the violence, in my opinion, you cannot really get the opportunity to do the other things. People being holed up their homes, traumatized when their child is shot or their parents are murdered, something like that. There has to be, let's say, people have to see the effort. They have to see that you care enough to make the tough decisions. And then there are many other issues, but clearly education, the training and opportunity on an equitable and intelligent basis in such a crooked city with such crooked inequity, that has to be dealt with for people to have a future and believe in their being in the right spot. Jobs is critically important, like who you're going to be. So let me say what you brought up is something that I think is very important. Like
Do you mind if I reiterate?
Sure.
So I think gun violence is number one. I think it goes hand in hand with poverty.
Yep.
I think that policing is the answer, but I think the reality is we're not addressing the root of the issue. So we have all these kids out here. They have no guidance. They have no community centers. When I was growing up, I used to have a community center when I used to be able to go to a program to help me do something with myself. We don't have any of that in the inner city. So we can say that stop the violence means policing, but the reality is we have mental issues. We have children that don't have two-parent households or parents at all. So I would like to know, like, how can we address the root of the issue and not just say, like, of course we need to stop gun violence, but it's deeper than just saying, like, we need more policing.
Sure. So let me be clear with you, and we may disagree or maybe we don't. If the mayor and this city never comes out in a way that the public can visibly see that we're making every effort to save lives and stop violence, we cannot get, in my opinion, to the rest of the issues. So I agree with you. You can't just like put out police and solve the problem. You can deter and take a break from the violence, get people's attention enough to address it more deeply. So the deeper sense is that, one, people, particularly in our most violent neighborhoods, my crime-ridden neighborhoods, the most kind of isolated circumstances where people are not coming out of their homes, they're not seeing other people, that like that. We have to give them a positive view of what is going to happen to them. One of the ways we can do that is cleaning and taking care of their environment. But a lot of it happens when the children go to school. And unfortunately, a lot of the adults in our city have had a very negative experience in their schools. Not saying everybody, but a lot have, and they just don't feel that education makes a great difference. And we have to really change that, but we can change it with the children. And I think it's a very doable thing, because to me, there are some great neighborhoods in our school and there's great people but when we look at homes where there aren't parents, or there's a grandmother raising the kids, or there's no, when we look at that, the place for them to go is school. The place for them to learn about music and art and their talents and their abilities, find out they're good at math, or they love reading, and they can play games, and they can do electronic electronic gaming and things like. They can have the pleasure and the challenge of school. It has to be a welcoming place. I think we can do that. I think we have done a horribly poor and unconstitutionally wrong, violation, for education. So when we start looking at how do we impact people, I think we could bring up many examples, and there's too many for me to go through, but I'm going to give you two. One is this, because we started this conversation about, for example, when you say art gallery. Our city's budget for the arts is it was $4.2 million, 4.2. Like about $1 million was for staffing. The available money through the Cultural Arts Fund is like 3.2, and it comes out in $15,000 grants, right? But one of the things about that is it's grossly inadequate. So I like to just tell people, in case they don't know, because so many people don't know, that this city, prior to the pandemic, arts and culture impacted this city on an annual basis $3.4 billion, $3.4 billion, making it one of the best ways for people to earn a living and have a future. Upward trajectory is tremendous. The household income was $920 million collectively per year, and then the local taxes was $157 million. But unlike the eds and meds, which, yeah, we have all kinds of people, but primarily you have to have like an advanced degree. But arts and culture is so very open to people, and people have all kinds of skills and abilities, and it's a place where people who have had very bad experiences can put it on paper, put it in song, put it in a screenplay, or get engaged that way. I try to do arts and culture. I try to do creative arts economy. And one of the things that I did, which I paid for, well, I didn't pay for it, take that back, I had to raise money for, was PHL Live Center Stage. I didn't get support from the city. I did get a grant from the arts office. That's grant money that somebody else gave. But that platform was so very meaningful to a lot of people. I tried to do a $45 million arts recovery fund, $45 million, because the arts as an economic engine was immediately taken out by the pandemic. And so many people in the arts, which is very important to our city for many, many reasons, not just for artists, but for tourism and things like that, they lost their jobs. And we got $1.4 billion in economic stimulus funds from Washington, federal money to stimulate the economy, but that money went into the city's debt. I tried to do a bill, $45 million for arts recovery. Now, Chicago did a $60 million arts recovery fund. It's not genius. And when you look at New York City, their fund is, they don't need an arts recovery fund. They're already funding like almost $200 million a year. And the result of which is you have people from Philadelphia who are super talented. They can't get a break here, going there, right? People are going. So the creative folks, the creative folks are very important to us. They are flying without a net. They put a lot out. They risk everything. Those are innovative people that we need. They're risk takers. They collaborate. They work together. That is like, kind of one example. I'm going to give another example because there's just too many examples. Library. I'm very disappointed in our libraries, extremely so. And I'll just explain why. See, I'm from Kensington. I'm not Kensington. I'm sorry. You're from Kensington. I'm from Kingsessing. The library is very critical from this end. One of the biggest problems in our city, especially when you're dealing with poor communities, is there's no credit. How do you get credit? There's no job. Like, how do you get credit? You need credit. And I just thought the library is a place where you can have credit, because fundamentally, as a child, you go to the library. It's a public space. You're using shared resources. You take out a book, for example, you treat it well, you return it on time. And that is your history. If you do that, you get to take out more books and you bring it back and you have a nice credit history. But what if you could, with a really good credit history, take out a violin or electric guitar or a chemistry set or a high definition television, right? Credit, the ability to take something out, treat it well, come back. Now, what if I had this amazing gaming console, that you could take out for 5 days? And it was a fantastic, amazing, cutting edge. But if I said to you, if you take this math test and get a 95, you could have it for 20 days. Would you take the math test? Would you study? Would you prepare? Could we kind of weave that into our public education system? Now, if I am an adult living in this community and I have good credit at the library, why can't the Amazon van pull up, take out something really nice for me and my family? Like, I think credit and the ability to use credit and develop credit, and then, so the problem with credit, when you just give someone credit, they get themselves in debt, like a payday loan or one of those furniture places. You're overpaying, you're getting ripped off. Like, they don't have the wisdom and self-control. But if you start when they're young and develop, they learn to wisely use credit in a way that is beneficial till we get to the point where you can get a bank loan or a loan and things like that. Some of the issues that we're dealing with is, for example, if you come out of state correctional institution and you were making money, Rodney's back there, we're on this phone call together, and it was pointed out to me by someone in state correctional institution. You could be making $120,000 a year, but you can't get a mortgage because you're a felon. So you can't buy a house, even though you're getting money. But can we solve that? I think we can. I think this city can guarantee, we're not giving away money. You're earning money, and we give you the ability to go and purchase a house because you are earning money. You paid your debt and you got family and kids to take care of. So I think, to answer your question, there are many things we can do to get to the root of the problem. But it begins with this. People have to have the sense that they can be who they aspire to be, and that this city is going to help them help themselves. And I'll leave it at that. Okay, thank you. I'm going to do a quick time check because I don't want to make everybody miserable. And, I'm going to try to, it's 6:16. I think we were kind of like technically started. So I'll answer like 2 more questions.
One more question.
Okay, one more question. Yes. Okay.
One more question.
Yes.
I want you to tell this audience, when you were mayor of this city during the pandemic, who answered the phones? He was the mayor of the city. He won't tell you that in his 2 months.
Well, thank you very much. What she's saying is, during the pandemic, which office was open? And we do have a mayor, and he was working, whatever he was doing. But I know that my office was open, and what happened is because we were open, we were handling a lot of things in the city, and a lot of people came, and and then I was out quite a bit. But we were forced to close, and we closed, and then we worked from home. And while we worked from home, my staff kept timesheets. I'm an attorney by profession, and when you're not in the office, you account for your time. And something I wanted my staff to do, because I told them, look, we're getting paid, and people are working from home, and we have health insurance and everything, and people are losing their jobs, and people are like desperately afraid. I would like you to keep a general timesheet, not like point whatever, but just like a general timesheet to count for what you did while you're working from home, to give the public that you were doing 8 hours a day on their behalf while you're getting paid. And one day that timesheet is going to be good for you. When people say, you public city employees are out there getting paid, not doing, no, I got timesheets. I was accounting. See, they don't need to inspect your timesheet. They just have to know that you actually did it, because we're accountable for ourselves. And then when I could get back in the office, we have 3 different offices. We had like people separated. And then finally, we were able to come back, and then we were fully operational. We had one person who was a senior citizen. He stayed at home, but everybody else was back in. And it was very good for us to be able to serve in this time of emergency. Since you're bringing up the pandemic, I'm going to say this. I don't know what happened to the COVID money. Does anybody?
No, I do.
Oh, okay. Okay. So what happened is this. If you remember, the mayor asked for, and we gave him, as we should, carte blanche money. Yeah. He said, I don't know if I have to buy these respirator machines. We might have to open, Hahnemann University. We might have to, go to the convention center. We might have to do all that stuff. But it didn't happen. I did a bill to try to find, to set this process of accountability. And it was tabled, which means it was off the table. There's just no. And so to this day, where's the money? Where's the money? And I think that's kind of like the pain in the behind thing that I did in council, which was greatly unappreciated, but I think it's so important. Someone has to say, where's the money? What happened to the money? How come Philly fighting COVID got this money? And what happened to it? And that type of thing. And it is so objectionable in our city government that somebody asks, what happened to the money? And I think, there's a point where, okay, we're going to have to do more than just ask what happened to the money and get shut down. So I would like to be mayor, and I like to open up the books and figure out what happened to the money, because I think we have money to do things with. And as many people know here, I oppose the real estate taxes. I think they are overly high, and the methodology is unreliable, and we end up pushing people out of their homes. And we have now developers buying up blocks and blocks and blocks. It is a big problem to me. Anyway, Manny, you're pointing to someone? Okay, I'm sorry.
Could I please ask you to ask Eric to sign people up to work for your campaign?
Oh, that's wonderful. So since we're in a town hall, I'll just keep answering questions. But after the town hall, if you want to help, please do. And quite frankly, this is a one-sided group because we only have one candidate here. So thank you for that.
Thank you for showing up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hola again. You brought up tax, and that's something that's a concern, and I believe that some of our homeowners are not aware of this. We all know that taxes went up high, that even small properties that was paying $350 are not paying almost $1,000. And I know that you have attempted to correct this, and they were all against you because I was in the hearing. A couple of you were in the hearing fighting this too. And Cheryl Parker was one of them that was against you too and insist on continuing to do illegal taxation because that's what it is. Now, what I recently found out is when my property went up sky high, I only have a townhome, a 2-bedroom house. What I found out is when you check the record, they had me a 3-bedroom house and a furnished basement. Now I'm being taxed for an incorrect description. Now keep in mind, it was correct before. How did it change? I have no clue. So I do have the before and after. So last year, when I wanted them to correct it, that's when they're asking people appeal the new taxes. So I'm thinking as I'm correcting them, they would go ahead and handle that. I passed the appeal process, so they still charge me for a higher amount. So when they made a change, now it comes up to 4 rooms, just to let you know. And my concern is I really wanted to go around the homes because I was unable to based on my current situation in recovery. I wanted to go to the homes to make sure that a lot of our homeowners that have 2 bedrooms are being charged for 2 bedrooms. And it's important that this comes public, that this is corrected. And if it is on the record that Cheryl Parker refuses to make a correction on this, and this is really important for homeowners. And then when they increase, and you're renting, your rent also increases based on that increase of the taxes. But if we allow that to continue to happen, this corruption is going to continue to happen. So that's one thing that I would really, really appreciate. And I'm sure everyone that are homeowners would appreciate correcting. Now, another part is, and I'm going to make it really, really quick. Our schools shouldn't be suffering the way that they are, where we're short of money. We're short of money by millions of dollars, and we shouldn't be. But that's because of the inaccuracy of the financial reports, where our funds are being redirected to corporations even outside of the city of Philadelphia. And one of the hearings I went to fight about was he also wrote a bill on that too, to make sure we get accurate financial reports where not only for him to see it, for all of us to see it too. So I don't know if you went to that hearing. I went to that hearing. Now, before he even spoke, they already decided to squash it, in case you're unaware. So our schools are losing money, and the Philadelphia Parking Authority is receiving that money and redirecting it instead of giving it to our schools. And that's something that we need to fight about too. So I know that, and we appreciate that support. I appreciate everything that you've been doing. I am a different kind of Democrat. I am a Latina, and I do support you fully because I have seen you not only go in the North Philadelphia, but in the West, in the Northeast, in the South. And when you were helping in North Philadelphia and everything that I've done, I didn't even know you were Republican, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right, there's a question.
The solar tax got paid passed.
So they can hear you.
As a mental health clinician in this area and a therapist to a lot of kids around here, one reoccurring theme I see like a lot of families and kids that I work with go through is the resources for after school programs and different things in the neighborhood to help to keep the children be occupied while they're not in school and not in the streets just causing havoc. Do you have a solution for that, with your campaign?
Well, yeah. So I think kind of the problem for me is starts with the lack of transparency. So I can't exactly know where the money goes in our school. And I'm an 11-year council member. The reason is the school is a different government, but the school board is appointed by the mayor. And so he has an ability to get answers, but it's not enough that the mayor gets answers. The answers have to be public. and everybody needs to know them. But for example, most people are not interested in every school in the city, just their school, for long as their children go, and then where their children go to another that school, right? So what I try to do in my appointments, if I am mayor, is to raise that issue that the school board members who are appointed by me will begin that transparency process. And I think it has to be a very honest process because you cannot fix what you don't know. It has to be made transparent. The other thing that I think I would that is problematic for me is the mayor makes 9 appointments. And every time you change a mayor, you change like policy, process, and all that. And the people who are most left out are the residents because they're not engaged in that process. And right now, I think the school district is very removed from being responsive to parents and children. And I would love to see, and I would try to do it this way, because I did a bill to let the mayor appoint only 4, a charter school, and let the people elect 5. And I find it to be just a much better situation for me in terms of what I think, and I'd love to hear what other people think. But if we had 5 zones in our city, 2 councilmatic districts each, and you could elect a member to the school board from your 2 councilmatic districts, then that person, although they sit on the overall school board, would at least respond to you about what's happening in the schools in those 2 councilmatic districts. There's only so many high schools, elementary schools, and whatnot. At least in your own district, you would want a level of equity of facilities, a curriculum, that type of thing. And then you might want it to be a little different from like another section of the city. You don't need to be exactly the same, but you want to have the same opportunities. You don't want to see that your schools in your zone are so under resourced compared to other areas, and you have a person to answer to you. 4 people will be appointed by the mayor, and they should be people who look at the school district as a whole with a level of expertise. And I think this is the difference. A lot of times, people who are elected, they go in front of the people. And people tell me, well, you're bringing politics into this. I tell them politics is already here. It's been here for a long time in the appointment process. But now the people get to do the politics as opposed to the politicians. But some people, they're not going to subject themselves to the ugly side of running for office because it's pretty nasty. And a lot of people are very intimidated by it, and rightfully so. But the mayor gets a chance to appoint 4 people. So with that, we can then begin to look at how we tailor, the education. Some schools, fantastic, no problem, good parents, everything you need at home. Many schools need more because they don't have that in their homes. They don't have that. They need enrichment programs. They don't have that in their community or their home. They need those type of things to tailor better to what the children need. And then when school is over, there has to be a level of uniformity to schools. Like, in other words, you can't have a piano and no little Beethoven. You can't have a little Beethoven and no piano. You got to have the same level of opportunity for people. But then the after school program, just like sports it's catered to what the student, what their skills and what their desires are, to experiment, find out, what you're good at, what you're not, have fun, enjoy it, sometimes pressure, sometimes no pressure. But that has to be made available to everyone who wants it. And that's where I do think like the accountability will then deliver the funding. When I look at school resources, I'm being told to wrap it up. Okay, gotcha. It's a sergeant major say, shut it down. Okay, so when I look at like the problems, I tell people this, they find it surprising. Some schools, like the parents deliver 2 shopping bags full of cleaning supplies. I don't know if any of you do that, right? Do you? You're shaking your head, right? It's not recorded anywhere. There are schools where parents, they don't bring shopping bag full of materials. They are, they don't have those kind of resources. And there are schools where parents bring probably like a couple $100 of cleaning materials. I mean, it's cleaning materials. Is that supposed to be provided in school? It's cleaning materials. Every parent has 2 shopping bags full and gives it to the school, it's not recorded anywhere. And teachers reach into their pocket and pay for all kind of things, which, by the way, are required by law to be provided to the kids. And when the teachers pay for it, it's not recorded anywhere. And so what happens is there are schools where teachers are buying materials, $2,500, $3,500. I know a teacher, he raises money from family and friends, $22,000 to buy all the art supplies in the entire school. And it's nowhere recorded. So when I asked the superintendent which schools need more money, the answer I get is no school. Every school has everything they need. And I said, you know what? We better start recording, because it's not just that. So I found $10 million in unused tobacco settlement money that we're going to lose anyway. I went to Harrisburg, asked, can I use this to reimburse school teachers? And so I introduced a bill to create a nonprofit fund using that money, managed by retired school teachers, so that teachers could submit their receipts. And if it was found to be those required school items, they could get a reimbursement. But that bill was defeated. It was defeated in city council. And it's hard to explain to people why that is. I do understand the reasons, but I'd like to say that if I were mayor, we would have that reimbursement process so I could identify what schools are lacking and where we need to increase funding to level it out.
I got something to say. I'm not gonna ask a question. I'm just gonna say I got to give you credit running for mayor, because the mess that this city is really, we're in the hole. We're really messed up, and I know that you're gonna try your best to get things done, but I know you only have 4 years to do it, and I know that he's not gonna have the opportunity to do things in 4 years. So even though you see some change, that's good enough for me. I don't know about y'all, but that's good enough for me. At least you're gonna start it off. You're gonna need at least 2 terms in order to get this city back up and go again. And I also got a question, not only the mayor, but we also have other public officials. We have city council, we have state reps, we have Congress people, we have senators, state senators, and then we have senators for the whole state. Nobody's holding people liable. They also have a job to do, and they also got to serve us, and they also got to be part of the solution. So not only the mayor is going to be able to do it by himself, but we need help from these other politicians, and I hope that us as people, we get on them and also make sure that they're doing their part. Thank you.
Thank you. I like to just tell everybody, this is not just a man talking. Dave Rodriguez is co-founder of the Pennsylvania Latino Democratic Caucus and has run many Latinos for public office on the Democrat side. And listen, he's over here because he wants to change, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So is that it for the questions, Dave?
That is it. That's the way
All
it
right,
tells.
can I-
Oh, wait, no, listen, I forgot my man Jose Figueroa here.
Hi, everybody. I'm a Philadelphia police officer, retired in 2006. I worked this neighborhood. I had the opportunity to work from county line to county line. That's from South Philly to Darby, Bensalem to the Delaware. I worked the whole city. I was in Philadelphia Highway Patrol high crime area. My thing is, and my question to you, what happened to that money that was collected from the soda tax that's supposed to have gone to the schools and daycares? I found out later on that that money went into the main coffer of the city of Philadelphia. It didn't go to the schools. It didn't go where it's supposed to have gone. So we need to find out where that money went to when it's supposed to have gone for schools and the daycare centers in Philadelphia.
So I'll say, look, we do know where the money is. It's in the general fund. What is difficult? Yeah, what is difficult to understand, like kind of because the general fund is part of the operating budget, and we have a capital budget. So by the time we go through all our budgets, our city's kind of money is somewhere 14 or 15 billion, give or take, right? But we only hear about like the 6.2 or whatever billion of the general fund of the operating account. Sitting in there is a tax money. It's in there. And when they say, well, this built this, did it? Or was it the capital? Like exactly where was it and which was where? But the issue about the soda tax is originally like it was about health, and then it was about, I think, pre-K, and then about rebuild. And people were told this, particularly if you're in a low-income neighborhood, if you're in the inner city. If you will support, because people in those neighborhoods hate the soda tax. They hate it, right? But the mayor said, the city said, if you support this soda tax, then sweetened beverage tax, whatever you want to say, then one, you'll have universal pre-K. Two, we'll have rebuild, where we will rebuild your dilapidated rec centers into something nice, and you will work on it. That was the promise. I think everybody remembers that. I was not for the soda tax. I was against the soda tax because I felt we have money in the general fund. We don't need a soda tax, but okay, that was, I lost. The universal pre-K, I like pre-K, but I don't think we need a soda tax, and it's not universal. But the rebuild is a big problem, because at the end of 8 years, what have we actually built? And how much of it were we going to build anyway with the capital money? And why should you pay extra for something you should already have? Like most of these rec centers are dilapidated through neglect. Yeah, nobody ripped them up. They let the leaky ceiling leak until the floors were ruined and all that. It was a failure to maintain. It was just put on a back burner. And so by neglecting the rec center, it became overwhelmingly destroyed. And so that's something that's supposed to be provided. And I just feel like it's like the taxes. If you're just going to raise people's property tax, will you ever actually increase revenues by economic development? You're just going to tax people's, is that like the simple answer every time? And it's the same thing with these rec centers. If you're just going to in other words, you got another tax. That's what happened. You got your property tax, you got this tax, and you got one more tax. To get what? Something you should already have. And where's the incentive for the city to start maintaining and building, providing what it's already supposed to do? And then I opposed the rebuild legislation off of this. It was supposed to contain a clause that rebuild would absolutely require neighborhood labor in rebuild, but that never happened. And the passing of the legislation authorizing, the soda tax rebuild without that promised piece, to me, was a violation of the public trust. And we still don't have it, and we should, and we could. So where is that soda tax money? It's sitting in there. It's hard to understand, but we know that like 2/3 of it or something like that is not being used for what it's supposed to be used for.
David, before me and Jamal go hit the street for 10 to 4 o'clock in the morning, before we got to go, because we got to get on the street, a lot of us here don't know why we outside, right? And you're a nice guy, right? Me, we're a different kind of Democrat. You're a nice guy. But the reason we're here on the pavement instead of inside is because for some reason, all of a sudden, the people inside might have gotten a call from somebody that said, don't let us inside anymore. All of a sudden, this space inside wasn't available. All of a sudden, one of the gentlemen that were the organizers, his boss got a call and he lost his job. So somebody got fired because of this town hall. Somebody got threatened, and I'm not saying who or whatever, but somebody potentially got threatened because David was going to be here today. Like, this is the kind of administration we could potentially have, the kind of intimidation. It's a thing called tyranny, and that's the overuse of power in government. And this is the kind of thing that we got to fight against. So I just want to close with, And anybody that think I'm wrong or telling the truths about it, correct me. But we're outside because the people that would allow us inside got calls from somebody that said don't let them in. And people actually lost their job because they wanted to have a town hall. And I would love to know, since the guy said he speaks for the Latino community, please acknowledge all the Latinos that are here.
No, yeah, and I'm gonna say this because, you know, I'm a big fan of Phil Latinos Radio, and what they do. You know, this is like a community thing they do. They're not in it for the money. They do a lot, and they should not be disrespected. They got a legit, you know, platform, and they do it out of the goodness of their heart. And I just really feel badly about, you know, kind of like the disrespect. It's as you know, they're getting stuff in their social media, they're getting stuff on their personal. They're just trying to provide information to the community. They should not be vilified. And I hope everyone will support Phil Latinos Radio, because they're the people that come out. They're not intimidated. They're not scared. They don't get threatened. They just do this, and they do it for the community. They're not, you know, this is just a good service. That's all. I don't see any reason to like attack anybody. It's a town hall. It couldn't be more simple. Anybody can show up and heckle me and attack me and criticize me, whatever questions you want. And I'm here for that. So thank you everybody, and have a great day, and thanks for being out here.
Show up. Enjoy the day with the people in the community, and enjoy the day with them. That police officer, what anybody said, but my brothers and sisters do. That's the vote for me.
Maria del Barrio, right? All right.
Bueno, como lo habíamos comentado, Latinos se había comprometido a transmitir este evento público el día de hoy. Así es que le agradecemos que se haya conectado con nosotros y bueno, pues agradecer que nos haya invitado. No encontramos quien nos invitó, pero pues aquí estamos participando, transmitiendo esta información para el interés comunitario. Bueno, pues era una plática sobre asuntos latinos en la ciudad de Filadelfia. Pues muchas gracias. Gracias por conectarse con nosotros y bueno, pues
I'll give you my card, and
como ya lo habíamos anunciado, nosotros estuvimos presentes aquí en el evento del día de hoy.
So they
Hicieron la
right in touch with
invitación
me.
y bueno, pues estamos aquí haciendo el trabajo como siempre. Así es que bueno, lo que habló al principio David O fue un poco, no puedo, no se pudo realizar la traducción de todo el día de hoy, ya que como él mencionó, tenía un intérprete, tenía a más personal que iban a estar aquí apoyándolo.
I'm gonna give up this before I break something.
Esas fueron las palabras de David O. Y bueno, gracias por acompañarnos y Latinos Radio en los eventos que nos invitan para la comunidad.
No te salgas de nuestra señal. Continuamos.